Hello and welcome to our presentation about human trafficking, presented by myself, Michael Dulick, Hannah Franz, Mike Newell, and Aiden Ross. In today's presentation, we'll be going over these points of our research, beginning with the introduction, going into the review of literature, statement of purpose, research question, research design, sample, superstitions and implications, and our conclusion.
The act of trafficking humans is something that's gone on since the beginning of time. The main reason for the increased information on human trafficking is because the media has begun to cover this horrific act. Although only sex trafficking has been the main focus of the media and not all the other types of trafficking. The main focus of our research topic is to focus on who is at risk of becoming a victim of human trafficking, not what types of human trafficking or what types there are. What was focused on mostly is an individual's respective social class and the likelihood of being trafficked. Since one's class is very fluid in nature, depending on an individual's location and perspective, the research team used the Gilbert model of social class. From there, we will decide what class is most at risk from results received from a survey that was sent out to the population of Erie, Pennsylvania, and dropped off at local homeless shelters and other establishments of that nature. After comparing social class and the survey answers, the research team will be able to determine a correlation between social class and the risk of being or becoming a victim of human trafficking.
So policing of human trafficking. Police officers do not have much training in human trafficking. Therefore, special task forces are created to deal specifically with human trafficking. 18% of local agencies have human trafficking training and 90% have their own special task forces. The predictors, the main predictor is social class, bad home life, poor housing. Not many people miss these kinds of people that get pulled into human trafficking. Therefore, they don't mind if they are dragged into the process, and they want a better life. And usually human traffickers will promise them that, so they're easily lured in. Our statement of purpose. Our statement of purpose is to examine who is most at risk for being human trafficked.
And our research question is if social class in the United States affect the likeliness of becoming a human trafficked victim. In our research design, we took our survey from the general population of Erie, PA, and then survey of people who live in homeless shelters and women's shelters. Then we would look at the feedback from each survey and compare them to people who are from lower income housing to higher income housing.
All right, the sampling we did for this was random sampling of the Erie population, as well as convenience sampling, which would be the homeless shelters and women's shelters and halfway homes. The reason we chose these two is because the random sampling of the Erie population will lead to like more of a general population rather than the convenience sampling of the homeless shelters and women's shelters, where we expect the results of people that feel they have been the victim or targeted victim of human trafficking will be higher than those of the general population.
Here you can see our key variables in our research, starting with social class, family life, area living, job status, and just the overall being of human trafficking.
The limitations of this study, there's going to be a couple. People might not be able to answer the complex questions that were presented in the surveys. When we go to mail these surveys to the Erie population, you don't know how many people are actually going to take this into consideration. People might lose it or just throw it away because of their inability to realize what it is and just think it's trash mail. People might see what it is and then just not care enough to respond to what it is. And so we won't have an accurate representation of all the population, but we can get a good random sample throughout this.
strengths of the study: confidentiality and anonymity. Participants feel safer knowing that their identities aren't exposed, especially with an issue like human trafficking. They might feel like they're putting themselves in danger if they disclose their information. Surveys are a better way to obtain a larger data set because they can be taken by anyone in this case, because it's randomized by the citizens of Erie. Surveys are much easier to analyze because there are only so many answers to choose from, and data can be concluded faster. In using surveys to compare two populations helps with obtaining as much information as possible because many surveys can be distributed at once, therefore there will be more information to compare the two.
The research team expects that individuals of lower income, drifters, and the homeless will pose the greatest risk for being trafficked. The results of the surveys sent out to the general population are expected to have answers showing that they have never felt threatened by the possibility of being human trafficked. However, the expected results from the homeless shelter and other similar establishments will show a threat of being trafficked or have already been a victim of human trafficking. The research team will also expect to get insight onto each individual's annual income. There are some implications that have potential to change policies, greater insight on those who are at risk at being human trafficked, where human trafficking occurs, and what someone who is a victim of human trafficking might look like. The study and greater insight of all aspects of human trafficking can provide lawmakers with the data needed to make changes in legislation and actions of law enforcement. The best method the research team found to gain data on such a sensitive topic is a survey. A survey appears to be the best way to gain the needed information, keep anonymity, not pressure or embarrass individuals, and maintain confidentiality. The survey is also the quickest way to collect information and reach the most amount of people, therefore providing the greatest potential for maximum responses. To continue research on human trafficking, there should be a study that focuses on reintegration of victims back into society. To better reintegrate a known victim of human trafficking, there need to be resources available for those individuals. The supplied resources also need to be used in an effective way to help the victim. Future research could potentially find the most effective use of resources, how and when to supply the resources, and who to supply the resources to. To conclude, there is a correlation between social class and the likelihood of becoming a victim of human trafficking. A way to make this study stronger would be to receive more information from victims of human trafficking. Since the survey is anonymous, it is impossible to track down and interview those individuals for more information. Having greater knowledge of actual victims could help find greater detail on their past and how they became involved in human trafficking. The type of data analysis used in the study was a narrative. This is due to the fact that the main source of data collection was surveys. There are some implications that would work into this study. The main three are the sensitivity of the topic, censoring, and the topic that cannot be generalized. Human trafficking is a very delicate and sensitive topic for many individuals. By asking these survey questions, it could be triggering for victims and bring up harmful memories. The topic can also not be generalized to all people. There are very select individuals who have ever been trafficked, and there's no exact science as to who will become a victim or not. Therefore, this data cannot be applied to the entire population, although it does help determine which social class is most likely to be targeted and why. Overall, the research study provided insight on potential victims of human trafficking. Are there any questions? No.